Hi guys, it's Aru from Arubakes, and today we're making this warm apple cake with like almost a crumble topping. It's got a bit of warmth that comes in from the cinnamon, chunky apple bits rippling through. It tastes like autumn and it's the perfect cake to make. It works at tea time, it works as dessert with a scoop of ice cream. It's pretty simple to put together. So let's get straight into it. Get yourself a bowl and a sift. Into your bowl, sift in cake flour, almond flour, salt, 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, half a teaspoon of nutmeg, and a teaspoon of cinnamon powder. The mix of flour and almond flour is what's going to give this cake its rich texture. And then just sift it into a bowl and set this aside. So once you've measured out the flour, we need to peel and cut the apples. I'm using a combination of green and red apples, but you can use either green or red or a mix of the two. A warm cake with cinnamon and apple, oh my god. Those are like my favorite flavor combinations. And apple pie, apple crumble. Oh, yum. Maybe I should make an apple crumble next. So now that these apples are nicely peeled, let's chop them up. And then cut it up into bite-sized pieces like this. That's the kind of size that you're looking for. Same with the red apples. Just do similar size pieces. I usually like green apples in baked goods just because of the tartness, but I just wanted to do a combination of green and red to see how well they'll work together in this cake. Okay, so now that these apples are nicely cubed up into bite-sized pieces, not very gracefully, pop it all into a bowl. And then I'm going to sprinkle 1 teaspoon of cinnamon on top. Just a little bit less. Just to bring home that cinnamoniness of this. Be more graceful than me when you're doing this. Okay, so set this aside while we mix up the rest of the batter. To the larger bowl, we are adding in some softened butter. Look at how soft that is. Add in the white sugar and the brown sugar. Okay, so in this bowl we have got softened butter, white sugar and brown sugar. The combination of white and brown sugar basically will make this cake super moist. I'm going to crack 3 eggs into a bowl. These are 3 medium-sized eggs. If you're using large eggs, then 2 will be fine. Beat the eggs just to break it up and mix up the yellows and the whites. Now we start whisking the sugar and the butter together. Add the eggs in a little at a time. When your sugar and eggs are kind of pale like this, then we can go in with a bit more egg. Just a little bit. And then mix that in. Then add a little bit more egg. Whisk it in. The reason we add the eggs in a little at a time is so that it incorporates well with the sugar and the butter and it emulsifies everything. That way you get a light, fluffy cake. Now you can use a mixer for this, but I'm just whisking this by hand. Just think of this as burning off the calories before you actually eat the cake. Okay. So now we have a nice pale, fluffy batter with the sugar dissolved in. And that's basically it, all of the hard work done. Okay, so when your batter is at this point, we add in the vanilla and the sour cream. The sour cream needs to be at room temperature when you're adding it in. So keep it out of the fridge nice and early. Same as the butter, just so that it incorporates better into your batter. Just whisk that together. Just bring everything together, that's it. Right, so that's done. And now we just have to fold in the flour and the apples. Give the flour a bit of a mix just to make sure everything is nice and mixed through. The cinnamon, the almond flour, all of that. And then you kind of just sprinkle it in like this, just so that it's nice and light. Use a rubber spatula. Fold it in. Always gently fold the flour in. Just pick up the batter from the bottom and kind of just pour it on top. This is, I think, the biggest trick to getting that light, fluffy cake. Okay, when about this much of the flour has been folded in, then we add the next lot. Again, just gently sprinkle it on top. 1 large spoonful at a time. Fold it in. Okay, at this point, add in another spoonful of flour. And just keep doing this until all of your flour is mixed through. Make sure to always scrape down the sides, just so that you don't have sort of lumps of flour left. Make sure there's nothing left at the bottom. And then add in the last bit of flour. And then fold that in as well. When you add the last bit of flour in, you can stir it a little bit more vigorously than you did earlier, just to make sure there's no lumps of flour anywhere. Okay, so now all of your flour is incorporated into the batter. Just give it a quick mix, a little bit more vigorously than you did before, just to make sure everything is nicely mixed through. And look at that beautiful batter. Yum. And then go in with the apples. And then just fold that in gently. Oh, yum. Can't wait to try this cake. Now, if you want, you can also add in some chopped up walnuts or almonds or even some pecan at this point, just to really elevate this dish. Okay, so now our beautiful batter is done. The apples are rippled through. Set this aside and we're going to make the crunchy topping to go on top of this cake. I'm using the same bowl that the apples were in, just so that there's less to wash up. Add in sugar and flour, and then just give it a quick mix with a fork. To this, I'm adding in 1 spoon of cinnamon, 1 teaspoon. And then we're going to add in some melted butter. Give this a quick mix just to form kind of like a crumbly topping. Doesn't have to be smooth, just mix it through. This is what's gonna give your cake that little crunch on top. Okay, beautiful. That is done. Okay, so when you're lining your cake pan, always grab a little bit of the batter and then apply it around the tin. And then a little bit in the middle, just dab it around, just so that your paper has something to stick to. Okay, see how beautifully that fits. Stick the paper to the sides so that it doesn't fold over and bake into your cake. And if you get little bits like this that's sticking out, dab a little bit more of your cake batter. And really stick that down. Oh, yum. Use a large spoon and then just spread this out. Again, if any bits of paper are popping back up, just stick it down. And then we sprinkle on some of that crumb topping that we made. This is the cinnamon, sugar, flour, and butter. Okay, so our cake is now done. We've put the batter in, we've sprinkled over the cinnamon, sugar, crumble on top, and now I'm going to pop this into a preheated oven for about maybe 45 to 50 minutes, just until it's cooked through. So the cake has been in the oven for about 40 minutes now. So I'm just going to pull it out and then check by inserting a skewer in the middle. Now this is still very wet in the middle, so it needs to cook for a little bit longer. Okay, so the cake has been in here now for an hour. Perfect. When your skewer comes out dry like this, your cake is done. Beautiful. Okay, so this cake has now been cooking for about 58 minutes, almost an hour, and it's perfectly cooked through. Yum. Okay, so I'm going to set this aside to cool down maybe for about 10 minutes. In the meantime, I'm going to make a little cinnamon glaze just to go on top of this. For the cinnamon glaze, we've got icing sugar, milk, and of course, cinnamon powder. Again, I'm using Sri Lankan cinnamon powder because, you know, it's the best in the world. Right. So to the icing sugar, add in about a teaspoon of cinnamon powder. And then we're going to pour in the milk, just a little at a time, while mixing this. Just about a tablespoon or so of milk. I probably should have sifted the icing sugar first, but it's fine. Your cinnamon glaze is now done. Okay, so this cake has been cooling now for about 10 minutes or so. I'm just going to drizzle some of this cinnamon glaze over it. This is going to add in a little bit more sweetness to this cake, plus really bring in that cinnamoniness, the warmth that the cinnamon brings in. Man, you should smell my house right now. Oh, smells like autumn. Yum. We've done putting the glaze on top of the cake. This cake just smells so beautiful right now. The whole house smells of cinnamon and apple, all those spices. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take an offset spatula and I'm going to just slide it just like this, just to release the cake from the side of the baking pan while it's still warm, and then I'm just going to let it cool down for about 20 minutes to half an hour. like this in the pan. The reason we release the sides like this before the cake cools down is so that it's easier while the sugar is still warm to kind of release it from the cake tin. If not, if you let it cool down like this, what happens is it gets stuck and then you'll end up breaking your cake. So let this cool down now for about 30 minutes and you'll find that the glaze will nicely set and the cake will be nice and easy to cut into, easy to handle. So our cake has now had about half an hour to cool down. It's still a little bit warm, but I think this should be fine. I'm going to take one plate, pop it over, and then very quickly and swiftly flip it. Lift that up. Beautiful. Oof. Look at that. So moist, so soft. Beautiful. Pop the other plate over it. Flip it back. And then we're just gonna slice into this cake. Oh, look at that. It's beautiful. Oh, so soft and moist. Oh my goodness. Wowza. Oh my goodness. Oh, it is so soft. And then you get like little pockets of apple, the warmth from that cinnamon and that nutmeg, and the slight crunch from that topping that we put. You know, I would have liked a little bit more topping, I think, and maybe a scoop of vanilla ice cream. This is almost like an apple crumble cake. Oh. Try this at home and subscribe for more. Bye.